requirements for travel to Canada.
New rules for international flights. COVID-19 testing and quarantine will take effect soon. The Government of Canada announced new rules on international travel, in addition to the multi-layered approach on COVID-19 already in place. The government and Canada's airlines have agreed to suspend all flights to and from Mexico and Caribbean countries until the 30th of April, 2021. This will be in effect as of the 31st of January, 2021. Further, effective the 3rd of February, 2021, in addition to proof of a negative pre-departure test, Transport Canada will expand the existing international flight restrictions which funnel scheduled international commercial passenger flights into 4 Canadian airports: Montreal Trudeau International Airport, Toronto Pearson International Airport, Calgary International Airport, and Vancouver International Airport. The new restrictions will include scheduled commercial passenger flights arriving from the United States, Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean and South America, which were exempted from the previous restriction. Private business and charter flights from all countries will also be required to land at the 4 airports. Flights from St. Pierre et Miquelon and cargo-only flights will remain exempt. As soon as possible in the coming weeks, all air travelers arriving in Canada, with very limited exceptions, must reserve a room in a Government of Canada-approved hotel for 3 nights at their own cost, and take a COVID-19 molecular test on arrival at their own cost. More details will be available in the coming days. According to Transport Canada, IRCC recognizes that the travel restrictions will have an impact on many people who can't travel to Canada right now. These restrictions stop most discretionary travel to Canada. Traveling to Canada, health check and quarantine.
If you're traveling by air, you need to follow all airline requirements and pass a health check conducted by airlines before you're allowed to board your flight. Anyone who shows symptoms of COVID-19 will not be allowed to enter Canada by air.
ArriveCan.
As of November 21st, 2020, you must use ArriveCan before checking in at the airport or crossing the border to submit your travel and contact information. Quarantine plan. COVID-19 symptom self-assessment. Please bring your ArriveCan receipt, electronic or paper, with you to show the Border Services officer upon arrival. When you arrive in Canada, immigration officer will assess your health before you leave the port of entry. You must have a plan to quarantine for 14 days when you arrive in Canada. This is mandatory, even if you have no symptoms. If you don't have a plan, you should not travel to Canada. Only people who provide essential services, for example, truck drivers who regularly cross the border to maintain the flow of goods, are exempt from the quarantine requirements. If you haven't applied to immigrate to Canada yet,
IRCC is still accepting most permanent resident applications. Unfortunately, the ability to review and process them is being affected by COVID-19. They can't currently estimate any processing times. IRCC is currently focusing on priority applications like Canadians and permanent residents returning to the country, vulnerable groups, work permits for people who perform or support essential services. They're trying to process those as quickly as possible. If you apply, you still need to submit a complete application. This means you must include all the supporting documents they ask for. If you can't get some of these documents right now, you should wait to apply until you can get them. If you already applied for a document but it's delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, you can send proof that you're trying to get it, like a receipt. Include a letter to tell IRCC why you don't have the document and when you'll get it. Send the document as soon as you have it to avoid more delays. If you get your language test results or educational credential assessment report by email or electronically, IRCC will accept them as part of your application. Express entry applicants.
Because of COVID-19, you now have 90 days to submit your express entry application after you've received your invitation to apply.
Permanent residence applications that are still processing.
Due to the impacts of COVID-19, IRCC can't process applications normally, provide accurate processing times. They're prioritizing some applications, including Canadians trying to return to Canada, vulnerable people, people who perform or support essential services.
Status of express entry applications last updated January 19th, 2021.
Canadian Experience Class. IRCC is working at full capacity to process applications. You may experience delays in processing because of backlog of applications due to COVID-19. IRCC started processing applications received the week of August 12th, 2020. Other express entry applications. IRCC have limited capacity to process applications and you may experience delays. They will update this when timelines become available. If you're missing documents due to COVID-19 such as police certificates, biometrics, passports and medical exams, IRCC won't close or refuse any applications in progress. They will automatically give you an extra 90 days to send the documents from the deadline in the request letter. This applies even if the letter says you only have 30 or 90 days. They will keep extending the deadline for another 90 days until you can get the documents. You don't have to contact IRCC to get this extension. Once you're able to, send the missing documents as soon as possible to avoid further delays. Some steps you may not be able to complete right now include submitting your passport or supporting documents, such as a police certificate, completing an immigration medical exam. If you get your language test results or educational credential assessment report by email or electronically, IRCC will accept them as part of your application. COVID-19. Changes to biometrics requirements and collection procedures. Temporary measures have been put into place for biometrics requirements and collection procedures. Language testing organizations.
Some language testing organizations have started scheduling tests again. You may be able to take a language test depending on the designated testing organization, region where you want to take your test, language you're being tested for. Language tests IRCC accept. Make sure you check the latest information about testing in your region. English CELPIP, Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program. IELTS, International English Language Testing System. French TEF Canada, TCF Canada. To withdraw your application.
If you're affected by the travel restrictions and want to withdraw your permanent residence application, use the web form to let IRCC know. They will give you a refund if you withdraw your application within 24 hours of submitting it. They haven't started processing. If IRCC already approved your permanent resident application, if you're outside Canada,
you won't be allowed to enter Canada right now. If you're coming to validate your confirmation of permanent residence COPR and become a permanent resident, unless you are exempt from the travel restrictions. You are exempt from the current travel restrictions and can come to Canada if you have a valid COPR and the COPR was issued on or before March 18th, 2020, or the COPR was issued after March 18th, 2020, and you are an immediate family member sponsored by a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. Note that grandparents are not considered immediate family members and cannot come to Canada at this time. Or, you're currently living in the U.S. and will be coming to Canada directly. Transiting through the U.S. to Canada doesn't apply. To meet the travel restriction exemptions, you must also be coming to Canada to settle permanently. You cannot come to Canada and leave to go live in another country, even if it's temporary. Show you're able to quarantine for 14 days. If you're traveling by air, you need to pass a health check conducted by the airline before boarding a flight. If you show symptoms of COVID-19, you won't be allowed to board. Quarantine plan.
You must have a plan to quarantine for 14 days when you arrive. This is mandatory, even if you have no symptoms. If you don't have a plan or the ability to quarantine as soon as you arrive, you shouldn't travel to Canada as you won't be allowed to enter. RCC won't give you a place to quarantine when you arrive. You need to make your own arrangements in advance. Provincial and territorial travel restrictions.
Provinces and territories may have their own travel restrictions. Before you travel, check the official website of your province or territory of destination. If you're already living in Canada, in-person landing appointments canceled. IRCC canceled all in-person permanent resident landing appointments at the offices in Canada until further notice. If you haven't gotten your COPR yet.
Currently, IRCC is finalizing applications based on the documents you submitted with your application. In some cases, they may need to contact you before they can finalize your application. IRCC will contact you if they need more information. Use the web form if you need to update your contact information. Finalizing applications may take longer than usual during this time. When IRCC finalizes your application, they will send you an official letter. While you wait for your permanent resident card PR card, you can use this letter too. Prove you're a permanent resident of Canada and apply for benefits and services you're eligible for. If you got your COPR, but haven't landed.
If IRCC sent you a COPR, but you haven't been able to go to one of the offices in Canada to validate it, IRCC will contact you to tell you what to do. Use the web form if you need to update your contact information. You should not travel to a port of entry to validate your COPR. This is not considered essential travel, and you won't be able to validate it this way. Due to COVID-19, IRCC have a new process to confirm permanent resident status. You don't need a COPR for this new process if you are in Canada. Permanent resident cards.
Once you become a permanent resident, IRCC will send you a document to confirm your new status in Canada. They will also ask you to provide a photo so they can start the process of issuing your first PR card. You don't need to apply for your first PR card. While you wait for your PR card, you can use your signed COPR document, if you have one, or the letter confirming permanent resident status too. Prove that you're a permanent resident in Canada, and apply for government benefits and services that you're eligible for. For example, to apply for your social insurance number so you can work. It may take longer than usual for IRCC to issue your PR card. Approved permanent resident applicants with expired and expiring COPR and permanent resident visa who are outside Canada. You're exempt from the travel restrictions, but can't travel to Canada unless your documents are reissued. If IRCC approved your permanent resident application on or before March 18th, 2020, and they issued you a COPR document that is expired or about to expire, IRCC will contact you to ask you if you're able to travel to Canada now, to live and settle there. Once they approve you to come to Canada, they will issue you the documents you need to travel. Note, to avoid delays, IRCC asks that you don't contact them via web form or through the processing office email. If you already contacted them before December 23rd, 2020, they will look into your request. If your supporting documents have expired.
If any of the following documents have expired, IRCC may need you to give them new ones. Medical exams, police certificates, and passports. If you need to update these documents, they will tell you when they contact you. If you're planning on coming temporarily and leaving again, for example, to look for a place to live, you can't do that right now unless you meet a different travel exemption. Also, when you arrive, you must have an acceptable plan to quarantine for 14 days in Canada, including how you will get to the place you're staying. All family members included in the application should travel to Canada at the same time, if possible. You should have a confirmed travel plan, or you must be willing to book and confirm travel plans as soon as approved.